Hood, Outlaws and Legends. It's a good game and it is just shy of being a great game. And this is my first impressions of it. This is the first impression slash review slash should you buy it sort of a thing. So stick around to the end of the video to actually, understand what this game is all about. Now I'm going to divide this game into this video into two parts. And those two parts are one, the characters and the actual gameplay. Now the first part obviously is the characters. Now in terms of the characters, this game has four right now. Four different classes also, but four different characters really. And I would say that Sumo Digital has done a really good job at making these characters different. But they also failed a little bit because guys, this is not balanced. Some of the classes are clearly better than the others, like the Bruiser John. He is better than, say, the Assassin. Now that doesn't mean the Assassin is useless. They have their uses. But in terms of the utility you bring to the team, you cannot beat John. So the amount of utility that this character brings cannot be matched by someone like Robin or the other Assassin. And I say Assassin because, let's be honest guys, this is like, when you play this character, it's basically like you're playing Assassin's Creed but a multiplayer game instead. Now there is of course the fourth character here, and that is the Mystic. And he can heal. He's the healer of the team. I don't know how else to describe this. He's also melee based, though he does have a little bit of range. Like he is a longer ranged character than John. So there's that. So yeah, that pretty much sums up all the characters. You have an archer who can, one-shot enemies. So basically the sniper. Then you have an assassin, which is the sort of a rogue character, which does like high damage, assassinate and all that stuff. But they also have a little bit of range damage. Then there is your bruiser, heavy melee bruiser, which is John. And you have your healer. Those are the four characters. Now we move on to the gameplay. Now in the gameplay, in this section, I won't be talking about my complaints from this game. I'm simply talking about what the gameplay is like. So yeah, I'm going to reserve my complaints and stuff for later in the video. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned, the gameplay has three phases. The first phase is you stealthily trying to get the key. Now, since this is a co-op game, stealth doesn't really matter all that much. Like at all, because if you're playing with random people, yeah, stealth is not going to happen. Stealth is not going to work. See, the thing is, I sort of expected this sort of thing to happen because when Assassin's Creed Unity came out, remember even that had co-op, I played a lot of that and never have I ever done stealth properly in that game. Like I had to wait for like a month to actually get some people that I communicated with, and then did we actually get good at co-op stealth. So you need a good team for stealth, otherwise you are going to screw up in stealth lots of times, as you might be seeing on the screen right now. So that is the first phase, and in my opinion, this is the best phase of the game because even if you aren't in combat, especially when you are in stealth, just taking the guards out while all your enemies are also doing the same, trying to sort of converge into the point where the sheriff is standing so that you can get the key. But also sometimes you screw up and the enemies now know where you are, or maybe the enemies have alerted the guards and you can see them. All of that creates a tension and atmosphere that honestly I have never quite seen in any other game. Like any other this sort of game, I haven't seen this sort of a tension in any other game. So yeah, I really love that aspect. But then you get to the second phase, which is after you steal the key from the sheriff, which I will talk about more later. You get to the second phase, which is actually getting to the vault and getting the chest. No, that's not technically the second phase, but it's part of the second phase. So after you steal the key, you get to that vault, you get the chest, and of course, if the enemy team already knows where you are, they might attack, you might have to defend against them. So that's all there. And then you need to extract that chest by, just taking up the chest and slowly moving forward to the extraction point. Now here is where my gripes to the games begin. But as I said, I'm not going to talk about the gripes right here. I'm going to leave those to the end of the video. So now what happens is most probably the enemies already know where you are. They are going to come for you while you are moving slowly to the extraction point. Now there are different sort of capture points. These are points basically, if you have played Battlefield, you know what capture points are. So these are essentially the stronghold points which you need to go capture so that when you die, and you will because the enemy will engage you, you can respawn back. Now the closer you are to the action when you are respawning, of course, the more advantage you have. It works exactly like all of those other games. So once you have captured these objectives, like when someone is trying to take the chest, it's always a good idea for one guy to cover the guy, of course, carrying the chest, and the remaining two players just go out and capture the closest objective points, the closest capture points, so that when you actually get to the extraction point, you at least have two options to spawn in, two options close to that extraction point to actually spawn in. So it has some amount of strategy, and you are not the only ones who are going to do it, because of course the enemy teams also know this exact same strategy and they are also going to capture the points. So some of the fight actually goes to the capture points, some of the fighting is happening where the chest is. And it is very important that these both fights happen, because if you don't have capture points, you are very likely to have a huge setback later in the game. But if you do have all the capture points, but you are not focusing at all on the chest, chances are the enemies are going to just go to the extraction point, and by the time you're done capturing everything, you are going to lose the game. So it's a balance that you have to strike in the game, and that is something that I actually do like. Now we move on to the third phase, which is the extraction. And this is, at least for me, where the game really falls apart. Because the combat, I haven't really talked about the combat before because it's a gripe, and as I said, I'm going to address the gripes later on, but the combat is janky and it becomes really chaotic. You know how I said you need the capture points? You need the capture points for this because there is no way on earth that you are going to stay alive for that long. You are going to die. And if you have closer capture points, that just means that you can put more and more pressure on your enemy. And if you can get a full wipeout, and if they don't have a capture point nearby, that gives you more time to sort of winch out your loot. So the way it works is you take your loot, you put it into one box, and then you start winching. And it goes, and you know, there are separate levels. So there are like 5, 6, 7 levels. So like every time you hit one of those levels, that is a guaranteed amount of loot that you will get. So all that is fine, except there is one small problem, which is that you can winch the whole way. Say you are concentrating on the winching, you are holding off the enemy team, you are almost there, just the last part remaining, and you die, and the enemy team comes in and winches that last part quickly, they win the game. Which I get that you are trying to go for a high risk, high reward approach, but this is unfair. This is not something that is high risk, high reward. This is unfair. A game should never become unfair. The way I think they should fix it is simply just make sure that both the enemies have their own progress bars rather than having a one progress bar that both the teams are working towards. That I feel like is a better way to do it. Now we move on to the gripes I have with this game. I'm going to keep this short. There are 3 major gripes I have with this game. 1, the characters are not balanced. Some have too much utility for the team. Some are way too selfish and don't really contribute to the team all that much. So in a way, this kind of faces the same problem that Rainbow Six Siege faces, which is weird to say, like Rainbow Six Siege and Hood, Outlaws and Legends could not be more different. But in essence, they face similar sort of problems. Does the skill that your character have benefit themselves, or does it benefit the team? Because if it benefits themselves, of course many people are going to rely on that, especially while solo queuing. But you need those gadgets that also benefit the team. And so this is something that they need to balance out. Like this is something even now Rainbow Six hasn't quite worked out, because you have gadgets like Jaeger which get nerfed in almost every single patch. So I don't know how they are going to balance that. I really hope they come up with an innovative solution. And yes, it's not inherently wrong for a character to be selfish. It's just that if one of the characters, say for example John, he has so much team utility, it's not even close. Like, he has a ridiculous amount of team utility. So when you get to that point, you start asking that, maybe he shouldn't have that much utility. Now, another gripe I have with this game, that is also regarding this particular thing, is that while you are in open combat, like not in stealth, characters can just go behind you, crouch down and assassinate. Now, I don't have a problem with the mechanic itself. I feel like it's really cool. I know it's frustrating. I know a lot of people hate it. I don't personally hate it. I feel like it is really cool and it sort of makes sense. Like, if I'm fighting with someone, another guy from their team can somewhat come behind me and backstab me. Because of course I'm fighting that other guy. It doesn't really give me much of a chance to counter. But then again, that's where you need the teamwork. That's where you need your team to watch your back. So that considered, I would say, don't give the bruisers the ability to do it. Like, don't give John or Mystic or even Robin the ability to do it. Honestly, the only character who needs that sort of an ability is the assassin, because of course she's a stealth character. So for her, it makes sense that she would go behind the enemies, like sort of silently or sort of in low profile, and then assassinate them. So in that way, that would make more sense. If you're listening to this, anyone from Sumo Digital Interactive, anyone, if you're listening to this, please consider this. Just remove that ability from other characters. Just keep those abilities with the characters that are more focused on stealth. Now, another gripe with this game is the combat. The combat is janky as hell. And that is something, if you have seen any footage whatsoever of Outlaws and Legends, you know how janky the animations are. Now, that is something I'm willing to forgive. I don't care if the animations are janky if they work. However, they don't always work. So the best way, I would say, if you are someone who is looking to buy this game, and if you're someone who is already playing this game for any reason whatsoever, if you're already playing this game or if you are planning to buy it, when you are playing this game and if you are in melee combat, please remember to use lock-on, because without lock-on you will miss hits from ridiculous distances. Like, I have missed hits where I was literally standing right in front of the enemy, I swinged my weapon and still missed. I don't understand that sometimes, but that is fine. Now, that is something that you can sort of counter if you have that lock-on enabled. Like you might be seeing on your screen right now, when I'm actually locked onto the enemies, I can hit them rather easily in melee. So yeah, even if you're using mouse and keyboard and you have that pinpoint camera accuracy, you still need lock-on because the game kind of demands it. One more gripe, this is the fourth gripe I have with the game, is the third phase of the game, which, as I said, it's a good thing to have a risk-reward system, but the risk-reward system should never become unfair. And that is how it is in the game right now. Like, you can do the whole thing and the enemy can just take over in the last second. And in fact, I've seen teams actually waiting to do that. Like, some teams were holding off while we were winching, and I sort of caught on to this early on. So we sort of communicated as a team that two of you just go off, because they are not going to attack now. Go off into distance and maybe pick them off from behind, because I felt like they were going to attack in the last moment and just get the loot in the end. So yeah, that is something, please change that, please change that, because yeah, I get where that idea came from. It's too unfair. So yeah, change that please. And the last gripe I have is Mr. X. No, not that Mr. X. The sheriff in this game. The sheriff in this game is extremely dumb. Like, he's like Mr. X, but like someone with a 3-year-old's IQ. Like, the whole time, like, I've seen footage from people where people have lifted up heavy gates behind him, gone through those gates, stolen the key, come back, and then let the gate down. How does the sheriff not realize this? The AI for the sheriff is really bad. And also, the sheriff also pops up near the end. So when you are actually extracting your loot, the sheriff will pop up as well. And that is just not fun. because the sheriff can one-shot you. Like if you get somewhat close to the sheriff and he detects you, he will just grab and one-shot you. Now that mechanic is not bad, except the sheriff sucks. The sheriff sucks. Let's be honest here. The sheriff sucks. So yeah, those are my gripes with the game. Now, as I said, these are my first impressions. I haven't really played this game for that long. Now, what do I feel about this game? As I said in the beginning of this video, I feel like this is a really good game and it has the potential to be great. And it is really sad that I didn't really see a lot of people playing it on Steam. Like when I saw it, there were like 3,000 people playing, and it did take me a while to actually get into matchmaking. Although I didn't particularly have any ping issues, I know some people, especially in Oceania, they don't have a server for themselves, and so of course they were getting really high ping. I don't have that problem. Of course, I think there's an Asian server, so your experience may vary. But yeah, this game is really good, but I don't think it's going to be one of those mainstream successes. I don't think this is going to end up becoming a PUBG or maybe a Fall Guys sort of a thing. But it is a really fun game. So if you have that itch of a medieval game that actually, sticks to that genre properly, or if you have an itch to actually play an Assassin's Creed game because God knows Ubisoft is never going to make one, then yes, this game is for you. If you're someone who really likes co-op games, this is something you can try. Just get in the game with your friends and I promise you, you will have a fun time. Especially if you're with your friends. Or even if you're solo queuing, like I don't have any friends. That is not meant to be a sad statement. I just mean that I don't have any friends who play this game. So yeah, the thing with this game, first and foremost, is that you need coordination. If you don't have that sort of coordination, you will suffer a bit, but you will be fine. And also, the biggest thing about this game, this is not a $60 game. This is a $30 game, especially in India. It's like 1,000 rupees. It is dirt cheap compared to the, ridiculously priced AAA games. So yeah, you know what? Go for it. Try it out. And especially if you're on Steam, you can always refund it if you play less than 2 hours, which you can get to like 2-3 games in this game below 2 hours. So yeah, try it out at the very least. I would say that much. This game is owed that much. This game is at least owed a try. So yeah, try it out, play the game. You have my vote of confidence with this game. And let's hope that this game can really become something special, something I can keep playing for the years to come. So all that said though, that's the end of this video. So yeah, if you do like this video, then consider pressing that like button. I know it's a bit too long, but yeah. And if you do like these sort of content like reviews, first analysis, maybe some news as well, then consider pressing that subscribe button as well. And also hit the notification bell icon and to get notified when I actually upload. And of course, more importantly, do let me know if you actually enjoyed the video down in the comments below. And I will leave you guys in peace.